travel partners. Today, the big old jet airliner takes us to Cyprus. I've put together this video to give you an idea of what Cyprus is like. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel, ring the bell to get notified of future video posts. Cyprus is the third largest island in the Mediterranean, and it's north of Egypt and southeast of Greece. Northern Cyprus is Turkish, and southern Cyprus is Greek. Let me show you a bit of northern Cypriot scenery while I tell you how I ended up here. You see, for years I was a talk show host, and one of my guests was a John Hughes Wilson. John has authored a number of excellent books, including JFK, An American Coup, The Truth Behind the Kennedy Assassination. A native of the UK, he was living in Turkish northern Cyprus, which isn't uncommon because Cyprus was part of the British Empire until 1960. Some returned to retire, and there's an interesting expat community up in Turkish northern Cyprus. During one of our live interviews, I suggested that if I were to visit Cyprus, we should hang out. He said yes, and I did. Here's John enjoying an afternoon with a couple of friends. John's on the right. His wife, Lynn, is on the left in the yellow shirt. At this point, I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale, and while I do, enjoy these random images of Cyprus to get an idea of what the island is like. I didn't bring any U.S. currency with me, planning as usual to simply use a cash machine at my connecting airport to get local cash. But due to a miscalculation, the amount I attempted to extract from the ATM exceeded the safety limit I had placed on the account. And the bank rightfully placed a hold on my account, which meant that I had no cash and couldn't get any. So I arrived at the Larnaca airport with a $20 bill in my wallet that I just happened to have there and had to traverse the country from bottom to top, and none of the transportation that I needed to take would accept credit cards. So I thought, okay, stay cool and think. I got a pack of Fig Newtons, a little pack of Fig Newtons at the snack nook at the airport, and they gave me about $18 worth of local currency in cash. Now, 14 of that was going to be spent on the bus ticket that would get me as far as Nicosia, which was about halfway, leaving me, about $4 for the rest of the way. And that first bus did not even get to the center of town. It left me at some sort of bus depot outside of town. A few inquiries revealed that there was a public bus I could take for 50 cents that would get me to city center. From there, I had to cross the Green Line on foot to get into Turkish Cyprus. The Green Line is the dividing line not only for the city, but the entire island. From this Green Line, I had to get to the very north of Cyprus for about $3. Actually, I figured that there would be no way that I could do it, and that I would have to get a hotel in Nicosia, deal with the credit card issue, get some cash, and then use some of that cash the next day to take me up north near the port of Kyrenia. But ever hopeful, I did make my way to this super gritty, dusty little bus office, and bus is in quotes, and was blown away to find out that the fare for the second half of the journey would only cost $2.50. Bingo. So, super tired, I collapsed into this little kind of mini bus and took the hour-and-a-half ride up to where I was to meet my hosts, and I was only a little bit late. The lesson here is always, always, always bring cash. The other thing to note here is this is also an indication of the vast disparity between the economies of Greek and Turkish Cyprus. John and his wife are fantastic hosts, smart and funny and very generous. As I mentioned earlier, Nicosia is a divided capital. You actually need a passport to walk from one part of the city to the other. I had to check in at passport control on the Greek side, walk across a little no man's land, and then check in at passport control on the Turkish side. How did things get this way, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's walk around and look at a few restaurants while I explain. In August of 1960, Cyprus became a republic, but the Greek and Turkish communities did not get along. In 1974, a Greek military coup attempted to link the island with mainland Greece, but it led to an invasion by the Turks. 5 days after the coup, a Turkish force invaded the north and divided Cyprus. The demarcation is called the Green Line, and it runs right through Nicosia, and that's why both the island and the capital are divided. The pedestrian border crossing I showed you earlier did not open till 2003. Moving on to food and restaurants, I spent most of my time in the Turkish sector of Nicosia, which is less expensive than the Greek side, so I felt I could eat at fancy restaurants like this one. Seldom do I order beautiful cocktails like you see here, but Turkish Northern Cyprus is much less expensive, so I went for it. On trips, I'm always prowling for a couple of things. 1. Grilled calamari. Tough to find in Boston, where I live. 2. Grilled sardines. You don't have to look very far to find either of those here in Cyprus. While on the island, I met a couple who very kindly took me to dinner at a restaurant with this stunning view from the table. The restaurant is in the port of Kyrenia up north, which makes this a good time to talk more about Kyrenia. Cyprus in the daytime is so hot that I stayed in the shade and didn't walk about much. Night times were far more pleasant for strolling about, and there's no better place to take an evening stroll than Kyrenia Harbor. When you do that here, not only are you walking to dinner, you're walking into the past. This harbor was populated by the Greeks after the Trojan War, and the foundations of the Roman castle are from the 1st century AD. The harbor grew more and more populated as people came here to enjoy the safety provided by the castle. In 1885, the British government made changes to the harbor that left it wide open to northern winds, and over the next 10 years, very many ships wrecked here. So many, in fact, they established a shipwreck museum. This harbor was my favorite feature of the entire trip, and I really regret not spending more time here. Looking back, I should have spent hours in my rattan chair, sipping tall drinks, chatting with strangers, enjoying the evening breeze, and watching the sun drop behind the boats in the harbor. Now, this is Larnaca in Greek Cyprus, and it was my point of arrival and departure. And it couldn't be more different than the north. It has a Euro beach volleyball scene vibe. In a sentence, how should I describe the difference between North and South Cyprus? Perhaps you could say the South is more developed, shinier. All right, story time again. I generally only book the first and last night's hotel in advance because I enjoy the flexibility, and most of the time that works well for me, but sometimes I get burned. And I almost got burned pretty badly on this night. The last night before returning. I must have inquired at 8 or 10 hotel lobbies, and they were fully booked. Nothing. I even had hotel personnel call around to other hotels. Nothing. I was sent to one place that was just too awful to consider. I peeked in the windows and walked away. Horrible. It was getting serious. I'm thinking I'm going to have to just walk the promenade all night or go to the airport and hang out there, which is no fun. But out of desperation, I went back to the Strip to a hotel that looked really expensive and really full. To my surprise, it was neither. It was not expensive, and it was not full. And it had a view of the whole beach, the promenade, everything. The view was so very great that even though I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning, which is usually a bummer, I didn't care because I got to see the sun rise over the fullness of that beach scene. That's pretty much it for the trip. That morning I headed off to the airport. Just two kind of incidents. One, the cab driver was really grumpy. I tried not to let that bother me. The other was that I was trapped in a massage chair at the airport. I love massage chairs, especially at airports, but this one seemed to have a mind of its own. And it grabbed my lower legs so firmly and squeezed so hard that I thought they were going to pop. You might not guess it to hear me speak, but one of my favorite parts of a trip is coming home. And I really anticipate the cab ride to the airport, waiting in the airport to board the plane, and take off. Cyprus is a great destination. Make sure you do your research before you go. I hope you enjoyed this Bradley J. Travel video, and if you did, hit subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of more Bradley J. Travel videos. Till next time, travel lightly.